Kia ora and welcome to, what am I up to? 119, episode 119, and I've got the legend Kane Brisco. Came across Kane through another legend that we've had on not too long ago, Lisa Tamati. And then, of course, when you hear about someone, then you see them elsewhere, and of course, New Zealand Farming features this man a fair bit on their social media. Kane, I start off with, and this is probably going to be a stupid question for a farmer. What did you do last weekend?
I can't even bloody remember. Actually, I had last weekend off.
Oh, here we go. What'd you do?
Yeah, this weekend off for a few weeks. What did I do? Jeez. Shit, I can't remember, to be honest. I can't bloody remember. We went up to New Plymouth for the day, mucked around up there a bit. Always go to town when you go to New Plymouth. It's a bit of a novelty where we live, so I just spent a bit of time with the family, really. It's good to get off and get a break, and whenever I get time off, I always get off the farm. We never have have time off from working and stay at home. We always get off and get some new scenery and sort of refresh and get the mind off work for a bit is the key for us. So we get out. We always go away, whether it's just for a night or for 2 nights or something, and recharge the batteries a bit and get back fresh and into it.
Bloody brilliant. I've got a good friend that lives in Taranaki, works for Todd Energy, and I did my optometry extern and final year in Taranaki, and we like to call it the promised land. What do you like to do in New Plymouth, the big smoke of the promised land?
Yeah, so I don't actually mind going out to a restaurant just for something different, or go and getting a feed and a coffee somewhere. But other than that, we actually like to get out to either up onto the mountain. That's what I was going to do. I was meant to be climbing the mountain on Sunday. Yeah. That was my big thing, but we went up there and it was just atrocious weather. So we waited around for an hour to clear up, and it didn't. And luckily, we didn't actually attempt it because it was snowing, believe it or not, in February up on the mountain. So we like to head up the mountain a bit, or there's quite a few nice lakes. We take the kids for a walk around or a bit of a run. Me and the wife sort of a few years ago got into trail running a bit. So we try and fit a bit of that in where we can. And otherwise, we've both got family up in New Plymouth, so it's a fair bit of sharing the kids around to the grandparents and going and catching up with everyone, really. And just being outside and seeing a few different sights, really. Getting back into the city life, I guess, for a day is quite refreshing after you've been on the farm and isolated.
What you say there about the family is a bit of a hey, we've come to visit. By the way, you were keeping the kids wear out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, drop them off for a few hours, and they don't mind when they don't see them all the time. So it works both ways, eh?
Yeah, bloody brilliant. It's actually one of the things that we've stuffed up in our parenthood is not living anywhere near the grandparents. So our offloading's been a little bit restrictive.
Absolutely. I met a couple actually that have moved over from England. About 7 or 8 years. So they're really hamstrung for time away from the kids. So I feel for them, absolutely. It's a blessing to have them close enough that we can get some time as a couple, I guess, together to do some things without the kids and do things with them as well as a family.
Awesome,
definitely
mate.
Got a balance.
Yeah. So, mate, I grew up in Southland. I'm a townie from Invercargill. My old man, he's also a townie, but he used to do a bit of holiday farm work. Plenty of family friends, as it is very easy to do in Invercargill, meet some family friends that are on farms. Done a little bit of tip pulling myself. I've also got a massive passion for the deer industry. That's one of my ultimate dreams, is to become a deer farmer. Even some of my patients walk in the door. I had a Poverty Bay shin beef farmer's wife come in the other day and say, "You look more like a farmer than a optometrist." So I must be channeling it. But my massive concern is this city washing, backlashing sort of stuff on an industry that's already working its nuts off, and How do you sort of see it from the other side of the fence, so to speak? The backlash from the townies.
Yeah, to be honest, it hurts. It actually does hurt when you, particularly as something that came to the front of my mind when the payout dropped a few years ago.
Yeah.
And we were sort of getting it, working for minus per hour, which was hard enough. And then that was, I guess, the start of, the vegan movement, and Safe did their videos exposing a few in the industry that weren't doing best practice. And you had this whole bashing come along, and it felt like you're getting stabbed in the back, to be honest. It was pretty hurtful, and it still is now a little bit. I guess I live, Harwood is sort of a rural service town. So a lot of the people that live in Hara still have a tie to farming or service the industry, that sort of thing. So they know what the go is, the reality of it. But you get the big cities like Auckland and Wellington and probably Christchurch and the like, and even New Plymouth now, they've missed that connection. Like I grew up in town as well, and we had an uncle that had a dairy farm. On my mum's side, that was the family farm, and he ran it. So we grew up every weekend. We were out there every school holidays. Mum shipped us off, and that was our life for the holidays. Was working for free and learning the craft, I guess. But yeah, it does hurt when your living gets bandied about like that, and a lot of false accusations and misunderstanding, I think, is the big one. It's really hard to tell our story to people that don't want to listen. And there are a lot of farmers out there now, telling our story and doing their own branding about what they're doing and trying to get it out in the media. But the people that have this judgment or the anti-farming sort of thing, they don't want to hear it. And the other ones, they're just going to keep piping on, saying what they're saying. So it's really hard. So we're targeting, I guess, we've got to try and target your everyday person and sort of just put our side of the story to them, and personal preference for people will win out. I guess there's a lot in the media about the vegan movement, and to be honest, I give zero fucks if you're a vegan. I don't care if you want to eat veggies and fruit, all good. Like it's absolutely no problem until they start turning it into a cult and bringing us down and trying to. It's almost like trying to spread I hate to use the word religion, but trying to make people change your life to live it the way you want to live it. And we see that sort of in diet culture as well. I don't think they're doing themselves any favour, and they're not doing the rest of the world a favour either. They think they are, but they're a little bit misguided in what they're doing. So it's a hard pill to swallow when you work so hard for something to produce so much food for so many people, to get that shoved back down you and saying you're doing the wrong thing it's pretty hard to swallow. Yeah, be the summation, I think.
Yeah, mate, and we've had a couple of guests on here that have highlighted the point that actually the root cause is a religion. The Seventh-day Adventist Church have started this diet wars and are sort of the driving force behind the vegan movement, despite the fact that not many people who jump on the bandwagon realise that. But yeah, that's the story, mate. And speaking of stories, and you said about they've got a common narrative, and they do the utmost they can to make it very, very emotive. On the positive side, we're starting now to see some fantastic imagery and things that are emotive as well from the farming industry, whether that's Dairy NZ or Fonterra or Synlait as a whole, or we've got now open country as well. When I was driving down South Canterbury the other day, there's a Oceania now dairy factory. So there's a bit of money still coming into the industry, despite the fact that the pricing's not that good. But and like I said, I'm involved with the deer industry. That they got massive. It's a beautiful country that the deer run around on, that marginal tussock stuff. But how does that sort of make you feel? They must start to instill pride in what you're doing again, and do a little bit at least to I don't know about block out, but just remind yourself of what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. And like you said, when you are one of these people that are doing best practice and going above and beyond, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I guess, like you said, the reminder that you are doing the right thing and that you are valued, and what you're doing I think when you're on farm, you sort of actually have to remind yourself that, like every vat of milk that I send out is feeding a shit ton of people. You sort of forget that, and it is a good reminder to have that. Across the country, 99% of people are proud of it and doing a great job with what they're doing. As with any industry, there's going to be some numbnuts that get it wrong occasionally, or whether that's intentional or from not learning the right way and that sort of thing. There's no industry in the world or practice that doesn't have things go wrong, whether you're a builder or a doctor or whatever. There's that through the board, and I think it's unfair a little bit to highlight all of those and make emotional narratives about those. So it's good to see, like, the boys that run the New Zealand farming website on Instagram and Facebook do a great job of showcasing that. So I'm really proud of what they're doing and what they're trying to do, and I think it's everyday farmers doing their bit to show that, more than the dairy giant of Fonterra paying Richie McCaw to do ads, as great as it was. Kiwis are pretty good at sniffing out the bullshit usually, so they want to see their farmer up the road promoting what they do and what they do on a daily basis. So I think that's hugely important to see other farmers get out there and showcase it a bit and promote themselves. I think the best promoting you can do is yourself generally, which is, as Kiwis, we find the hardest to do though. So I think more and more with my generation, we'll see that coming through. A lot of the sheep and beef guys now, and deer as well, are doing their own marketing and branding, branding their own product and selling that, and that's been great for them, I think. And I think you get a flow-on effect from what they've done, promoting their whole industry, rather than just their brand. There's that flow-on effect. So it's important that we do it, and it is reassuring and a good reminder to all farmers out there, or anyone in any industry, that you are valued. And I think that's important, just as a person, to be valued. What you do is a valuable thing.
Absolutely, and probably an institution for New Zealand. And I'm constantly when the daughter's a bit sort of hard to manage and we want to get things done, it's kind of like, well, it's those times where you do, in all honesty, sit them in front of a screen, but then you got to be careful of what you choose. And something that never disappoints is that beautiful banjo tone at the start of Country Calendar, mate.
Absolutely.
That show is sensational, and I wish it was on 7:30 p.m. every night of the week instead of The Bachelor, because God, there's some stuff on there. Or Bachelorette, whatever it is.
It's iconic, really, and my kids actually quite enjoy sitting down and watching it too. On a Sunday, we often let them stay up a bit later to watch it, and it's something that's missing now from Kiwi kids, isn't it? That connection to what built the country, I guess, to a certain degree, and that simple way of living. I know you've done a lot of podcasts on, with hunters and whatnot, just getting back to the basics of living. And I was talking to someone actually a couple of days ago about, health and fitness and the industry that it is and where it's heading. And I think it's one of those instances where we need to look to the past to help us with the future a little bit. There's so much fucking information out there. It's scary, and people don't know where to turn. And that's where you get there's misunderstandings and misinformation and fads and that people like to jump on. And I think we've actually got to look back a little bit at New Zealand's history and think, it doesn't have to be complicated, probably.
Yeah, there's a reason that early All Black teams were absolutely sensational, and people like Colin Meads and Brian Lahore were absolute champs. It's because they were running around hills and lifting shit.
Exactly, mate. Yeah. Simple. Sometimes simple is best, and it's that that number 8 wide mentality that we have as Kiwis would be sad to see that go, and a lot of that's was based around farming. That's how it all started, I guess. So we want to try and keep that for our kids, and that's certainly how we're trying to bring them up, exposed to everything, the realities of life and farming and life and death and all that. Just keeping it real with them, and keeping it real with other Kiwis that don't have the opportunity to go onto a farm. I think is really important.
Somebody that I just, out of the sporting field that I just got reminded of is Ed Hillary, beekeeper and conquering the world. That's part of the awesome thing about our country and our landscape, is that it's not far to go. Even here in Havelock North, it's literally drive up the road and climb a mountain. Like that's what another thing, like you say, for kids, getting them out, getting them exposed. I was talking about with Kieran Island in the last episode about getting them bored so they start being adventurous and imaginative and things. How what do you sort of see in your kids when it's close the house up and entertain yourselves?
Yeah, the best thing we actually brought this year was we went the old school jungle gym that you used to see at primary school. So Santa dropped one of them off, and I saw that as one of the local engineers in town started building them last year, and I was like, that's me. That's what I want my kids doing. And mate, they've just grown in confidence. We don't, around our property, we don't have many climbing trees, but they're all over that like monkeys. So just getting out, and like you said, you actually need to just turn the TV off, and kids are very creative. The first step's turning the telly off, taking the device away or whatever, and 9 times out of 10, they don't go and grab a toy that's been brought. They'll go and make shit up outside and jump on the bikes and have a hoon around. It's been really good. Just next to our house here, we've made our gym, I guess, outside. So we've cleared a bit of stuff away and made a rig, and I've got some dip bars out there and that, and they're all climbing over them and doing all sorts of stuff, and they go into the garage and get the workout gear and start rolling it around and all that sort of thing. So just, being creative with themselves and understanding that it's okay to be bored too. I think it's a big one that, I think we see in the younger, probably my generation and younger, is they can't handle being bored. They can't sit with their thoughts anymore. They've got to have something, happening all the time to keep them occupied. So, just letting them know that it's all right to be bored. And, the farm's their oyster. I had the cows next to the house a couple of nights ago, and my young fella went out there and started feeding the cows this banana and that sort of thing. And next minute he was a couple of 100 metres away out in the middle of 200 cows just going for us. I was like, that's good on him, That's what I want to see from the kids. We doing the things I did when we grew up. My uncle used to put us in the bloody tractor bucket and lift it up and try and tip us out and that sort of crazy shit. But health and safety would have a bloody ball here. But the day I can't do that sort of thing with my kids and get them out exploring and understanding what risk is probably the day I quit farming, I think.
Mate, honesty. That's a perfect word. Understanding risk and assessing risk, and you catch yourself sort of going, "Oh, don't do that, you'll get hurt," and then you go, "Actually, no, be careful, do it, but be careful." And it's funny you just said it's not the toy you bought. I collected a couple of boxes to pack some stuff into yesterday, and they've just been sitting in our kitchen, and sure enough, that's a jungle gym all of a sudden. It's pretty hilarious.
Yep, 100%. It's so true. You buy them a Christmas present in a big box, and they go and play with the box for an hour, and the toy gets 5 minutes of attention, basically. And understanding risk is a big one. It's something that's getting driven out of society, So it's we love to see the kids getting outside their comfort zone, and part of what we've done here with the fitness thing is getting people outside their comfort zone. And what I'm trying to do with social media as well is challenging people's limiting beliefs, I guess. And I think that starts with our kids. And you do got to catch yourself when you talk to the kids. Don't do that, you'll fall off. It's just a natural instinct when you're a parent, but you actually just got to let them have a crack at things and deal with the consequences to a certain point.
Yeah, but you said about comfort zone, and I was flicking through your social media, and you had a fantastic Instagram story Not story. What is it called? IGTV. God, there's that many functions.
Yeah.
IGTV about that word itself, like being uncomfortable, being happy with being uncomfortable, and then at the end of that, finding yourself and finding achievement. Now, anyone that's been through high level sport knows that trainings and games and build up periods where you're doing the hard yards, the moment it's over is the most sensational period of elation and an absolute bliss. But as you said, if we put a sweeping generalisation that we're a little bit of a bubble wrapped society, what do you think the mind shift needs to be to change that and push and find ourselves a bit more?
I think we're after that instant gratification, that instant hit of feel good factor. I think is a big part of it. It's too easy to turn the telly on. It's too easy to flick through your phone watching bloody cat videos or whatever it may be that makes you laugh or gives you that hit of feel good. It's too easy to eat a block of chocolate or go and get a cream donut and that sort of thing. It's that whole mantra of I'm not happy in this moment, so snap my fingers and give me a hit of good stuff.
And even when it comes to like relationships and stuff, it's too easy just to swipe right or left. Or
exactly.
Long time since I've done that, but
Well, I missed out on that.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, everything's at the click of a button now, which is you can use that as a positive or a negative. But too often I think we use it when we shouldn't be using it, and even just sitting with your thoughts and actually fronting up to how you're feeling and thinking, what you're thinking, and finding your own satisfaction through doing something positive. Taking a positive action seems like it's becoming harder and harder for people. So yeah, I think that just that whole mindset shift of not seeking instant gratification, I think, and instant comfort. There's just nothing good that lives there. It feels good for a second, and then you're left with the same problem 10 minutes later. It's a horrible little loop to get in. I think everyone goes through that with what technology we have available in society as it is now. We all sort of go through periods of that, and I find myself doing it every day. It is just having that discipline to stop yourself, catch yourself, and actually no, I actually need to do this for me, or I need to do this for my family, or doing the slightly harder road. It doesn't have to be bloody going and doing 1,000 burpees or something, or going and doing a massive training session, or pushing yourself to the limit all the time. Just taking the harder option, that's the positive option for you, can do so much just in your general life.
Yeah, man. I saw you channeled that a little bit, because it's a brief thing that gives you a really valuable reward, but then at the same time it's hard. And the dairy shed, especially if it's a herringbone, is bloody good, because there's bars everywhere, and you can do some dips every time you get out of the pit, or you can do some chin-ups every time you get out of the pit. And like I say, there only needs to be like 2 or 3, and by the time you've done that 30 times, you're away laughing. Talk about your influence for that. You brought up the name David Goggins, who's he's probably at the end of the spectrum of absolute freak in a good way. But what does he mean to you, man?
Just his mentality. I read his book when he brought it out, and I've seen a lot of his videos and what he's done with his ultra running and his story. And it's just we can all benefit a little bit from channeling some of his mindset. He's way at the far end of the spectrum, but he's got some great messages in his story, and he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I don't care who you are, you can take the messages out of his story. You might not like what he does or how he presents it or whatever, but it's that mentality of just finding a way to better yourself. And I think that's what I take out of it is just not picking the easy option. He's that guy that just takes the hard road for himself every time to figure out who he is. And I can definitely, when I look back through my life, there's been several moments that have been I guess, influential in where I am now and what I'm doing. And I chose to battle through that hard option, I guess. And you do really find out what you're made of, what's the substance inside and upstairs, that what can you get through. And that's an important part of developing as a human. What we see here is with the older generation of farmers, whether it's farming or when they're coming to our boot camps, is they've been through those challenges and they've had to push through them, and they're mentally very strong for the most part. Whereas my generation and younger, particularly the ones that haven't been involved in sport at a higher level or being challenged in that way, struggle mentally to get through the workouts and that sort of thing, and struggle on farm to with that being under pressure, coping with that and dealing with pressure situations. They tend to struggle. So it's taking the hard road when you don't have to is a very powerful thing. Optionally, taking the option of putting yourself under pressure or stress or challenge when you don't have to is hugely beneficial when you come to a situation where you don't have a choice of being under pressure, which life will give to you, whether you like it or not. Sooner or later, it might happen when you're 10, it might happen when you're 50, but sooner or later it'll come. So it's just doing a little bit of proactive, I guess, development, being ready for that. And there's nothing you can do optionally, probably, that life can't throw you something bigger, but it's you still use the same principles and ideas to get through whatever it may be. So that's what I took away from Mr. Goggins, and he's an absolute inspiration to a lot of people out there. I think people just take him the wrong way because he's so far out the spectrum, but he's he's a freak in every sense of the word. But it doesn't matter who you are, you can take something away from his mentality. And it's good to see him just being real and old school. Is that just he's just awesome.
Hey, mate, you brought up a good thing there. It's about inoculating yourself to those stressful things. And through work, I've been doing a bit of coaching with a I guess he's a business coach and things of late. And just this Monday, he sort of brought up the idea that do things when you want to do them, not when you have to do them. And he just sort of said there about, no matter what you do, life's going to throw you something bigger that you've never dealt with. But it's a bit like, from a micro level, for me, this last month, doing the 34 burpees every day, it's kind of like, if you get up in the morning and do them, you feel frigging fantastic. If you get to lunchtime and you do them, you're like, oh, great, I've done them. If it's the end of the day and you still haven't done them, then you have to do them. And then you really feel like, oh, man, this is bringing some anxiety, some depression, some letting people down, and, all the downsides to it. But then again, you get them done and it feels good. You get it on the other side. But, mate, when you sort of inoculate yourself against stress, you manage that, what is it, that famous quote, and I don't even know who it's by, it might be like Leopold or something like that. I know what it is. Viktor Frankl, and it's like the time between when something happens in your response, when you've inoculated yourself, when you've, if you're doing meditation, whether you've slowed yourself down, it's that time in between when you have the response that just seems to extend. And another analogy of that is people, high-class sports people, they just seem to have more time in what they're doing because they're ready, they're prepared, they're mentally strong, and nothing seems to faze them. And I'm sure if you were able to tap into their internal speak, it'd be chaos. But
interesting. I read a book by Kerry Evans. I don't know. So he was
Richard McCaw's guy.
So he worked with the All Blacks for 10 years, particularly after they capitulated, I think it was in 07 at the World Cup, I believe. So he was part of that resurrection with Richie McCaw and Graham Henry and you see that with guys like Richie and Dan Carter, under pressure, they just look cool as a cucumber. And, And that was a really good book too, to back up sort of that Goggins mentality. And his thing was, rather than just being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, was actually walking towards that pressure, that mindset of embracing those challenges, rather than just doing them and being able to get through them. The next step is then walking towards that fire, being a firefighter, rather than walking out of the pressure and running away from it, actually walking towards those challenges in life and embracing them. And that really resonated with me. I've watched the All Blacks pretty closely, and what they do when they're in pressure situations, just that breathing, getting their breathing sorted, calming their nervous system, and all that sort of things, made a lot of sense to me. And it's something probably in the last 2 years we've really personally tried to embrace and walk towards as many challenges as I can, as stupid as that is sometimes, but walking towards those and being open to whatever comes my way. Like, even now doing a podcast of 6 months ago would never have even popped into my mind doing something like this. We had a reporter here last night doing a little video interview, Craig Wiggins, for the Farmers Weekly.
Nice.
His little thing he's got going on. So just putting yourself out there, going on social media. I wasn't one of those people either. Walking towards the challenges rather than just turning a blind eye to everything, which a lot of us just do. We just walk around doing our job, our 9 to 5, whatever that may be, and going home and flicking on the telly and sort of just switching off from life to a certain extent. That's definitely a mentality along the lines of what Goggins goes on about, is walking towards those challenges in life that really, as uncomfortable as they may make you, they make you. They make you different. They make you who you could be, who you want to be, and all that sort of thing. So it's a really important factor of society that I think more and more we need today.
Mate, you said 6 months ago you never would have seen yourself doing something like this. What was your little switch?
I guess probably when we got involved with Lisa Tamati and what we were trying to do with her and Hayes, and just she was someone we had followed for a little while, being that we'd got into running, and trail running had definitely. So my wife signed us up for the Taranaki Off-Road Half Marathon, which was 21 k's through the forest, and I'd never done anything like that. I never thought I'd be able to do a half marathon for a start. I'd always run for rugby and boxing a little bit, but only short distances sort of thing. And she signed me up for it. Signed us both up, and I thought, what the hell are you doing, woman? Are you sure? I'm like, 21's a long way, and off-road it's even harder. And we actually did that, and it was right up there with one of the harder things I'd ever done. And that taught me, sort of got me on that path of challenging myself again, because I'd been a long time not challenging myself, I guess. And then she signed me up for the Waitomo 35k off-road run. And that was right up there with probably it was a sort of different challenge to boxing, but mentally very difficult. Just putting one foot in front of the other for a long time when you're hurting and feeling like shit. Even though 35k's now doesn't seem too daunting, back then it was massive, something I'd never thought I'd ever do. So that was sort of the switch. And just talking to Lisa, and she encouraged us to first of all give this fitness thing a go on the farm, and then later on put ourselves out there on social media. So she was probably a catalyst for doing that, and just a nudge, I think, that we needed to give it a go. And we've just sort of taken that and run with it with whatever comes knocking at the door, basically.
Epic. So how did you get involved with Lisa on a sort of one-to-one basis?
Yeah, so the wife actually signed up to her running coaching program, and we followed her on Facebook, I think it was, and because she puts out a lot of good information around running and all that sort of thing. and we listened to a podcast actually the night before we did the Waitomo Trail Run for the first time, and she was talking to another lady, I can't remember her name, but it was about her struggles with conceiving.
Yep.
And all the things she had been through, and why she couldn't have a child, and we'd followed her story pretty closely by that stage. And then a few weeks later, she put up a post, and I can't remember what it was, but it was sort of I think she was embarking on some sort of a mission to try and find a surrogate or something, or an egg donor or something along those lines. I can't quite remember what it was, and I saw it, and the wife was next to me, and I said, "Oh, you could do that," sort of half by jokingly. And she sort of looked and she said, "Yeah, probably could." And she put we put a comment on under the post. My wife and her family actually is extremely fertile, very good breeders. So she put something funny on there, and next minute Lisa was ringing us basically like, "Are you serious?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, we can have a chat about it." So we then went down the path of trying to be a surrogate, or my wife trying to be a surrogate, I should say, mother for her and her husband Hayes. And yeah, so we developed that pretty close relationship through that. And yeah, one way or another, she just pushed our boundaries a little bit in our personal life and what we wanted to do. And unfortunately, it didn't work out as it should have, which was, I guess, another tough lesson in life. When you're trying to do something good, there's just no mercy with Mother Nature. She just sends you, and that was a tough blow for all of us, but also taught us a lot about each other and ourselves, and probably for me, love. I've never been in a room. We had to bury Joseph, and hopefully it's all right for me to talk about this. But
yeah, no, of course she brought it up herself when we spoke, and the amount of messages that I've had from guys saying, they went through the podcast hearing about Lisa's mum, and they thought that was enough, and then she dropped that on us, and the amount of guys I've had message me saying they were broke down into tears is pretty remarkable, and even myself, I'm feeling myself well up right now.
Yeah, and just being in that room, I've never felt so much love. It was an incredible. Like, as horrible as the situation was, it was also incredible. You just never feel. I've never felt love like that before, not in that way, and not in that volume, and the understanding from everyone was pretty incredible. It was, one of those lessons you don't ever want to get in life, but you've got to try and take a fucking positive out of it, basically, I guess, and I think as individuals we've all done that and pushed. It's only more motivation to stoke the fire, basically, another log on the fire to when you lose a young life, to live life for them, because they can't, I guess, in a way. So taking those risks, putting ourselves out there, taking on those challenges in their namesake, I guess, is a pretty big motivation. I know Hazley's about to do an ultra marathon down in Christchurch, the Unity Ultra, I think, and I know that'll be fueling him big time. And I know with his work as well, he's a firefighter, and he's stepped up in his work life too since then. Just because that's changed his mentality around life and what needs to be done, really, to make it worthwhile for a son he didn't get to have, or didn't get to see grow up. So it's a when I say life delivers you a blow you don't expect, it really does. And for Lisa and Hayes, particularly Lisa, she's been through enough challenges already in life with her mum and her past. It was like, what next? Fuck it. It was bloody horrible to watch, but at the same time, you just got to use it as fire and push on. It'll either make you or break you, those sort of things.
And so it's like you said, it's something that you never want to go through, but sometimes it almost appears like it happens to the people that can handle it, and you can get as deep and spiritual as you want about those sorts of things, and blame it on or call it on universe or wherever you want to place it, but as you say, moving through that and feeling what you felt, and then channeling it. How does that sort of then sharpen your day to day? Because I'm sure there's moments in the day to day that become sort of stuff is all. And then you can pile that onto the negative pile, and you can also pile that onto the positive pile. But how do you sort of get yourself out of that it is the negative pile?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's probably different for individuals, I guess. In a way, I guess I'm lucky or unlucky, throughout my life, particularly earlier on when I was younger, I had to deal with a couple of things where it could have sent me into a very negative, or it did send me into a negative place, but I used them as, I guess, motivation and fire to do something positive. And I guess you get the option. You don't get the option of what happens to you, but you get the option of what you do with it. And I think it's a whole mindset. Some people just put out, they get hate, and I certainly had a lot of hate when I was growing up within me. But I found an outlet to get rid of it in a positive manner. And a lot of people don't find that outlet, I think. So they, whatever it may be, crime, or they turn, they just turn their life into a negative because they haven't found a positive road to go down where they can, I guess, let that hate out, or whatever it is, the sadness, whatever it may be, to let that out in a positive way. And I feel lucky that I did find a way through sport, I guess, through rugby and boxing and farming, being able to prove to people that I wasn't dumb or that I was capable of things, and I got to let that anger out in boxing and on the rugby field. Using it to a positive is, not everyone finds the way to do that, which is, I think everyone has a way to do it. They just don't find it, if you know what I mean, or don't look. I absolutely have moments where you want to chuck it all in. There's been moments, particularly with social media since I've been on, where I just feel like throwing the phone out in the paddock and fuck this, because it's a battle at times in a lot of ways. But just refocusing your attention on your why and what you want to get out of it, short and long term, is really important. I think the ability to refocus your attention when it gets distracted is very underestimated throughout every aspect of life. I think it's a real skill, because life's going to distract you in many different ways. We see that daily, but being able to refocus on what you want is a huge skill, and it's a skill that every successful person will have, but probably don't recognize all the time. Their ability to refocus their attention consistently, day in, day out, on their goals is hugely instrumental in achieving anything, I think.
Yeah, and you spoke about finding that outlet, and that's something that I try implement with my everyday. Same with doing the podcast. It's kind of almost like, I'm super lucky that I didn't go through, basically anything of major trouble or major threat or anything like that. But there's everyone's hurt is justified, but then at the same time, there's also people and moments in your life that come along that you just wonder where they came from. And I can think of many coaches and things that have been said to me by family and friends that just make all the difference. So whenever I see that opportunity with a young person that comes into my room, they're just there for an eye exam, and I've shared it many times. We had what's his name, Josefa Tuiaso on here, and one of his powerful changing moment questions that he had was, "What are you passionate about?" And that question to a young person, even if they don't have one, really gets, you can just see behind their eyes I'm looking at the eyes, but the things turning over in their brain, like, one, what the heck does that mean? And two, what am I passionate about? And it just moves on forward. And then you might get the old one that does have that passion, but I don't know whether it's society or their parents or their background or what, they quash it themselves. And just to really be the dreamer for them, like young kids that say, "I love art," and you can just say to them, you could be seen at any gallery you want, net Taranaki, you could feature at the Lenlai, or had a young Polynesian boy who's into opera, and I said, "Mate, I can't wait to see you singing the national anthem before the world, the rugby and stuff like that." And it's unrealistic, but it's not. Why can't it be that person?
Exactly, and I'm a classic example of that, because up until probably a couple of years ago, I believed in myself, but I didn't really believe in myself. I look back, and that's part of the reason why I've done what I've done over the last year is I have a bit of regret around probably sports. I could have been more. I know, going back, I had the upstairs in terms of training and the mental toughness. I could train like a dog and do all of that, but I didn't truly believe that I could get to where I should have got. Like my boxing trainer was a classic. He was really confident that I could win a national title, and his confidence gave me confidence in myself, but I never really bloody believed it. And the same with rugby. I made the Taranaki under-20s team, and the coaches sort of said to me, "You're not that far off. If you do this and this and this, playing for Taranaki one days, you've got so many good attributes. If you work on this and this, it's quite achievable." But I just didn't really bloody believe it. I gave it a nudge, but didn't have that deep down seated belief. And I think that's probably been a big mindset shift over the last couple of years, is actually believing. Because it's hard to do. I grew up in a family that were pretty, I guess, classic New Zealanders, where we were told as kids you can do whatever you want, and we got supported with that, but not that we weren't massive cheerleaders for each other or anything like that. Probably tall poppy syndrome. I've always been scared to stick my neck out there because of tall poppy syndrome, because I was one of those people that would cut down other poppies, believe it or not, and that's sad, when I look back, but it's just what I was and how I was, where, we saw Israel Adesanya the other day, that speech at the Hellbergs, he's dead right. We just got to build each other up and promote one another and instill that belief in one another that you can actually do what you want. Not everyone's going to get it. But if you work hard and consistent and do what you need to do, you're going to have a pretty good shot of getting somewhere close to it. The aim for the stars and get to the moon sort of thing is still pretty bloody good. So that's something I've 100% understand, not actually believing deep down. And I think when you do believe, your eyes open up to what you're capable of in the world. And it's almost like looking through a different lens almost. But yeah, even now, I still, I think we all have an inner critic, an inner doubter, and it's learning to shut them up with action, I think, is the best way. So going out and doing the things that your inner critic's telling you not to, or that you can't do, is just go and proving them wrong. So that's a big one, I think.
Yeah,
it's a big way to shut up anyone, isn't it?
Sometimes it's those people that you were proven wrong that are still in your head, whether that be from bloody primary school, you're proving those primary school kids wrong. Why the hell am I still proving them wrong? Why are they still telling me that I'm shit or I'm ugly or I'm whatever?
Yeah, exactly. But fuel for the fire if you can keep it in your head, isn't it? It's one of those things that can either turn you turn you into a beast or humble you pretty quick and take you down a life of mediocrity.
Yeah,
probably is a word that gets not enough recognition probably for most of us.
Yeah, I was listening to Tim Ferriss and Brene Brown talk about that very thing the other day. What's the level between feeling happy but striving for greatness, or feeling happy and being complacent? And where do you find your fuel? Like even Goggins, like I say, his fuel is don't be fat, don't be unwell, don't have strokes, don't end up on the dole, don't let down your kids. They're all pretty negative things, but shit, does he channel it?
Yeah, absolutely. And some people just seem to have that natural ability to do that somehow, whether it's their upbringing or could even be a bit of genetics, I don't know, or things that have happened through their life. But guys like him and Goggins just they've flicked a switch and they're just able to channel it to the utmost and consistently do that. And it's quite incredible and inspirational what they how consistent they are with their everyday life, just turning shit to gold, I guess. Making positives out of nothing and challenging themselves. It's like a habit, isn't it? I guess for them, it's once they've started it, it's just becomes a part of their being. It's part of who they are.
Yeah, but so on the small scale, what's like the actual training sessions? What's your sort of who's coming along? How often are you doing it? How long is it going for?
Yeah, so we do 1 hour sessions or 45 minutes to an hour twice a week, so Wednesday and Friday night. And we've got a really wide mix of people that come. So this is our second summer doing it. And we have got we've got mainly farmers and farmers' wives sort of thing, but we've also got a few from town that come out.
Nice.
So we're bridging that urban-rural divide. There's a couple of teachers and I think there's an accountant and that sort of thing coming out. But we have, they bring their older kids along, 14, 15-year-old high school students. Got a couple of them that are trying to get fit for footy and swimming and soccer and that sort of thing. Right up to, we've got a couple of people that are into their 50s, local farmers that come out and do it, and everything in between. Last night we had Erica Perry, who is from Inglewood, so she's a good hour's drive away, and she's lived her whole life with disability, and she came out and got stuck into it, and she loved it, but she was an inspiration for everyone that was there. It was incredible what she was doing, and a perfect example of no fucking excuses. There's no reason why anything can hold you back, and she epitomizes that completely because she's done some pretty awesome stuff with her life. So we've got a range of people, and that's probably what surprised me the most. I started it basically for a few of the younger ones around the district. I thought I could pass on a bit of knowledge about training and being healthy and fit for their sport or for farming in general, just to make life a bit easier for them and something to do. We ended up with a massive range and we're probably getting sort of between 12 and 16 people this year a night. We've got, at any one time, 20 odd could probably turn up if they if life sorts themselves out for them and they all get free at the same time. But luckily we haven't quite had that many because that would be bloody a bit scary. But yeah, we're getting good numbers and a really mixed variety, and that's what's cool about it, I think, because it's for anyone to come and have a go and get stuck into it. We're all equals, and it's all. Yeah, it's all inclusive for townies or farmers, and we just get out there and get stuck into doing a bit of hard work and trying to make a better person for when you go home, basically.
Epic. And if that right there is the secret ingredient of group fitness, whether it's CrossFit, 45, whatever you want to call it, and now Farm Fit, it's the secret ingredient. Like, mate, I was in CrossFit, always trying to be top of our class, and we had some bloody strong older guys. One got, what now? 4 of my class have been and done SEAL Fit, so that's 72 hours straight, working with Mark Devine over there in San Diego. So, and one our coach who used to train with us as well, she's been to the games. So, there was no mean feat, but the people that actually really inspired you was the 67-year-old person in the working their ass off, the mums and things, just crushing it, and especially when it comes to mobility. Jesus, some of those girls, they'd kick you up, make you look embarrassing. If you ever want to be humble, do dumbbells, single arm overhead squats, and stand next to a ballerina. She'll kick your ass.
Absolutely, mate, absolutely. And I've seen that out, with trail running is. I actually, when the wife was pregnant last year, I think it was, she had entered the Tarawera 50K and got pregnant, so we dropped down to the 20K, and I walked it with her because she was, I don't know how many months pregnant she was, 6 or 7 months pregnant, I think. No, 5 maybe. So we walked the 20K, and that was way harder than running it. Way harder. It was an absolute battle walking 20K in the heat through a forest, and you see, my wife's the same. She's sort of a back of the pack runner, and when we did Waitomo the first time, I think she was about 9 hours, close to 9 hours out on the course. And, it's a hell of a feat to stay out doing something that uncomfortable for that long. It's that's why I try and get it over it quickly. I run fast, mate. Just get it over and done. I don't want to be in pain for that long. So they're absolutely a testament to willpower and really, really having a good understanding of your why is doing something that's hard for a long time. And the back of the pack often is, and the older generation that come along to our boot camps, they just put their head down and do it. But it must be so much harder because it's hard for me. So it's a real testament to their strength that they finish it off and get it done.
Absolutely. Now, moving the lens out, and you said some days social media you want to throw the phone out in the middle of the paddock and never find it. But what's it been like? Like you said there, Farmers Weekly are coming along to do an interview with you. Great publication that it is. What's been the good response? Because I'm sure there's plenty of good responses, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, every time I feel like stopping or not doing a video that's I guess a little bit got a personal aspect to it, or just even putting myself on camera is pretty uncomfortable, to be honest. Every time I get to that point of throwing my phone away, I generally get a message from someone, and the timing's just a little bit funny because it's always at that moment that they're saying, you've made a difference to my day, or I really needed that right now, or man, I found your stuff so inspiring, and all this sort of stuff, and some personal stories and that sort of thing. And that's just, and I get them, and I'm just, oh fuck, every time I do a video, I just try and think, just help one person with this. That was what I first said before the first video, the first photo, or whatever it was. Just if you can help one person, it'll be worth it. So here, actually getting some feedback that it has made a difference to that one person, it has helped them. It's done something measurable in their life. Has been very humbling. A little bit, I don't know if awkward's the right word, but it's just something I never expected to ever be doing, because I was so anti-social media. I was just one of those people. I've always had a Facebook account, but never chucked much up on it. When people did put themselves out there, I was just like, fucking just go and get on with it sort of person. Someone would win a trophy or get an award for finishing a race or doing something. I just feel, fucking carry on sort of thing, like you don't need to tell everyone about it. So I was 100% one of those people, and I've sort of done a 360 on that, and I'm the one sticking the beak out there. So it's been a hell of a learning curve, and still a challenge to put myself out there because it's so unnatural. But those messages I have got have absolutely made the difference in continuing to do it. And it's been very humbling and yes, a sort of a strange, surreal experience. Like the guy that was here interviewing me last night, he's from Methven, I think it was, or Ashburton, somewhere down there, and he was at the sale yards in Tekapo, of all places, and someone came up to him and said, "Oh, you should do an interview on this Kane Brisco fella," and he said, "Yeah, I'm going up there next week," sort of thing, you know. It's just weird, you know, and I can't imagine how I've got a pretty small social following, but those people that have hundreds of thousands must be in a whole nother complex about it. And it's interesting, I was reading on, what do they bloody call it? Imposter syndrome.
Yes, yeah.
I'm doing a bit of reading on that, and even though I'm small time, I definitely feel that, you know, someone's going to come along and just, you know, blow me up out of the water saying I'm a fraud or I don't know what I'm talking about. So you sort of have that in the back of your mind, which it's weird. It's just been a really strange experience, but very rewarding. Very, very rewarding when someone says that you're making a difference to their life, because, you know, with the one-on-one in-person, people don't often say something like that. You know, it's very rare. Like none of the people that have come to boot camp said, "Oh, you've made a massive difference to my life," and I don't expect them to do that. But I guess social media or you know, communicating online gives people an avenue where they feel comfortable to do that. So it's very humbling, very rewarding at the same time, and a little bit strange, but we'll just try and keep carrying on, I guess, and trying to shoot down some of the negative ones out there, or the ones that are capitalising on other people's insecurities and that sort of thing. Really gets on my goat. So we try and sort out some of the bullshit for those out there that aren't sure.
Yeah. No, I think the best way to look at that is see Joe Rogan, you know, gets paid $30 million a year to talk on a podcast, plus whatever else he does, and constantly says, "Oh, my life's weird. I don't even know how this happened." So I guess the lesson from that is imposter syndrome never goes away. Even like my day-to-day job, I show up to work and see patients and do what I do, just, you know, doing it, and then people will say, "Oh, that's amazing." You're like, "Well, I'm just doing my job."
Yeah. It's a strange one, the old imposter syndrome. And even probably in farming, I've felt that you probably feel it, but without having a term for it or understanding, is that someone's going to walk onto your farm one day and say you're doing a shit job or you don't know what you're doing. And you know, we own our herd here, so we're pretty up there on the ladder, I guess. And yeah, that thought that maybe I've been doing it all wrong for 10 years, sort of thing, you know, it's a strange one, but I think we all have that thought in whatever we do.
Yeah. So where did you start in at the dairy industry, and where are you up to now?
So I left school at 17, and I've got two older brothers that were they're quite a bit older than me, and they'd both gone dairy farming. And I actually got a job. I went and lived with my brother, and he was share milking in South Taranaki, and I went and stayed with him and just started relief milking. I wasn't really too sure what I was going to do. Didn't really want to go dairy farming because I didn't like getting up that early. But he actually got me a job down the road on a dry stock farm. It was 1,000 acres, and it was only meant to be a temporary job until the farm owner found a new manager. I was replacing a guy that had been there 18 years, I think it was.
Wow.
So I was just in charge of basically shifting the stock every day. We had a lot of heifer grazing and bulls, and not so much sheep, but it was mainly beef and cutting hay and maize and all that sort of thing. And I ended up staying there 5 years.
Wow.
And that was a really cool time in my life, because that's when I sort of discovered boxing and started getting good at playing footy, and I was living on my own straight out of school, and stayed there 5 years and really enjoyed that. I ended up really just taking over the manager's job as a 18-year-old, basically. So I got thrown in the deep end there and learnt the hard way about farming and life, and thoroughly enjoyed the dry stock lifestyle. And then that farm got sold, so I went overseas for about a year, back and forward a little bit, and sort of experienced UK life, as a lot of people do, and met my wife and came back, and I sort of thought, well, yeah, what should I do now? And I got offered a job on a dairy farm that wasn't far away, and went straight into managing a 400 cow dairy farm. Did that for 2 years and went pretty good at it really off the bat. Worked really hard for it. Learned a lot in those 2 years, and then went to a bigger farm that was just around the coast a bit further, and had a really tough year with a farm that was, I guess me and the farm owner clashed to a point, and a really tough season. We had a massive drought. And earlier in the year, just before I took on the new job, actually, I'd broken my ankle playing rugby, so I turned up on crutches basically. Really this big manager's position on 600 cows, and it was just a nightmare of a year, really. It was a real tough introduction to real life dairy farming, I think. And from there, we brought a herd. The boss that I'd first started dairy farming with the previous year went out and brought a farm, a smaller 200 cow farm, and said, if you want to have a go at buying a herd and doing it on your own and going up the ladder, here you go, basically. So we went and got a big old mortgage, chucked every penny we had into it, and we've been on the same farm for 7 years now, with lots of trials and error, and starting to win the battle, I guess, on the dairy farming side of things. But I guess 10 years of dairy farming, and 3 before we brought our own herd, which is pretty unheard of, with no family help either. So we don't have a guarantee or anything on our loan, or didn't have that family backing to get on the ladder in terms of buying cows or tractors or anything like that. We had to do it out of our own back pocket, and it was just a shitload of hard work, really, and saving and sacrifice. And wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but we're still here going somehow. So yeah, that's the farming thing, really. And I'm bloody proud to actually do it without having a family farm to fall back on. So we've had no safety net as such, and we had to go through, I think the first year of owning a herd was the $8.40 a year, I think it was, where there was just money for jam everywhere. And that was the reason the bank let us actually borrow that much, was because the dairy price was so high and looking positive. We thought, no worries here, that payout will get us through sweet as. And 2 years later, I think we were down to $4 or $3.90 or something, basically less than half. We couldn't sell the herd because we owed too much money on them. They weren't worth anything. And it was a bloody challenging time. Absolutely went, I guess, got a bit depressed and angry at the whole situation I'd found myself in. Blamed a lot of things rather than. I did a video a while ago on accepting responsibility, and at that stage I didn't accept. I probably just couldn't believe the situation I was in, that I, we'd just had our first daughter, just moved onto this new farm, and our income had slashed in half, and we were just stuck in a place where we couldn't do anything. We just had to push through somehow, and still don't know how we made it through, to be honest.
Yeah, mate. So with your herd, what's been your sort of focus on moving it forward and optimizing what you've got?
Looking to the future, so I had a good idea of what I thought the cow of the future would be.
Yep.
And so we actually invested, despite not having any money, we invested as much as we could into making our asset as future-proof as it could. So we changed the whole herd. We brought a mainly Jersey herd, and we've changed them all basically to Kiwi cross. And I just had a belief that would be a good thing to do, and it's actually paid off now, and that they're a really top performing herd. So we're just inside the top 25% in the country in terms of their figure, the BW and PW, which is a measure of quality, I guess, their value. So we've taken a shit herd and done that over 7 years. So we really just tried to focus on being efficient producers, being able to farm how we wanted to farm and still make a profit was a big factor in how we wanted to do it. We like to feed our cows a bit of supplement and make sure they're well looked after and all that sort of thing. So finding a system where that balanced out with still making a dollar at the end of the day was difficult, but we're finally getting there, I guess. So yeah, just focusing on the asset we had, which was the cows. Without them, we don't make a dollar. So putting a lot of value back into them, reinvesting, and just as good as humans, we don't often fucking reinvest in ourselves. But if you value yourself, you've got to reinvest back into yourself too. So it's a bit of a crossover there. There's a lot actually we have in common with cows, which is scary.
Yeah.
Good too.
Yeah, and I've just had my daughter in here. Talking of that, what are you sort of doing around replacement? Are you just breeding that and keeping with the girls you've got, or are you bringing a few through each year?
Yeah, no. So we have our own replacement scheme. So we rear about 45 to 50 of the best. We're breeding from the top of the herd as much as possible. Anything that's we don't see as being, I guess, future genetics in the herd, we'll put to beef. So we get that value from meat as well.
What sort of breed are you crossing for those generally?
Hereford generally. Yeah. A lot of dairy farmers now are putting over either Murray Grey or even belted Galloways and Speckle Park and that sort of thing, aiming at that market for, I guess, lifestylers, must be into those. The trouble is dairy farmers all jump on the bandwagon and then flood the market. So we try and keep it really simple. You can go and it's sort of like a fad diet too. You can jump on it and then everyone does it, and then it's not what it cracked out to be, and you've missed out by actually just doing the same old. So we keep it fairly simple. We trying to make the farm as simple to run and as efficient as we can, so I can do a little bit more of the health and fitness and social media thing. So we're trying to cut down my hours on the farm and get a bit more family time and some, I guess, a place where we can do a bit more one-on-one stuff, maybe with the health and fitness, or do more boot camps or something, and diversify what we're doing. I guess in a funny way, even though we're not doing it for any money, it's actually been really refreshing to not just have the farm to think about too. Having another challenge that's quite different. There's a bit of thought that goes into running a boot camp and that sort of thing, and it's difficult because it's pretty hard on the time management, but it's also quite refreshing to come home and have something else to think about rather than just thinking about the farm all the time in the back of your head. So that's actually been a real positive that I didn't think would exist when I first started out. I thought it would just be more work, but it's in some ways refreshing. Refreshes the mind to have something else to concentrate on and put some energy into as well.
Yeah, so kind of that creative outlook. I was laughing to myself there. You're talking about the sort of more niche lifestyle breed cows, and a guy I love following is Morrison Farming from Mangara Station, and he's got the Easy Carve Herefords, and he had a joking, and I think it was a joke. I'm pretty sure it was a joke. Easy Horned Highland cattle was one of the ranges that he was saying he was going to bring out. So I think it was a joke. That was exactly for the lifestyler, and I think I'll get some Highland cattle one day when I start off small.
Absolutely. Beautiful animals.
Anyways, mate, the racket's building up out here, so I better.
There you go.
And we've got a visitor as well. I'll have your links in the show notes. You're on Facebook as well, are you?
Yep, same title. Yeah, Kane Brisco _
Lovely.
Just with a space put. Yep.
Mate, what would you like to leave us with? A thought or something that's not doing you wrong?
actions speak louder than words. I think there's been a lot of talk, particularly around the mental side of things with farming and just society. You know, we're getting this awareness around mental health, but on the back end of that, we actually need to do. You know, that's when things happen. So it's great that people are talking about it, understanding the mental health is important and physical health, but we actually need to get out there and do. So the more people in the trenches spreading the word and helping out and taking action is the key. I think that's the next step to getting people healthy and, you know, physically, mentally and spiritually is people taking action. So do more than you say.
Bloody awesome, man. Awesome. I know that this is going to, resonate with so many people, and I'm excited for those little messages in the inbox. You know, there's not why I do it, but a bit like yourself. But shit, it's so cool when things resonate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to come on and have a yarn.
Legend.
Awesome, mate.
Cheers, buddy.
Great.